Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey with the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. And we have a question from our friend Doc in a plane. I think that's how you say your name. And he asks about sumo, the Japanese martial art combat sport where those really, really big guys try to push each other down or out of the ring. If you're not familiar with the rules of sumo, there are no weight limits, no weight classes, and so that's why we see such really, really big guys, because there's no advantage to being smaller in sumo. It's to your advantage to get as big as you possibly can, which is one of the important differences between sumo and mixed martial arts, where we do have weight classes. So our friend asks, what if there was a high-level sumo practitioner in MMA? He thinks that such a fighter would be able to dominate the sport. Now, let me tell you this. We've actually seen that before. In the early days of the UFC and Pride Fighting Championship, we had a couple of sumo, and they didn't do very well. If you look at Emmanuel Yarborough, bit of a tongue twister to say that. He was, I think, somewhere between 600 and 800 pounds when he fought Keith Hackney, who was, I think, about maybe 200 pounds or so. Significant size difference. It was a David and Goliath type of match. And Keith Hackney ended up winning via strikes. He went out there with what some people call the iron palm technique, where you strike with the palm. It's like the only time I've ever seen that in MMA. This overhand palm strike knocked Emmanuel Yarborough down, knocked down this 600 to 800 pound man. I'm really not sure how much he weighed at the time. And proceeded to club him in the head with hammer fists and forearm strikes until several minutes later, when the fight was ended. Now, Emmanuel Yarborough, sorry, I can't say that name, Emmanuel Yarborough. He fought again in Pride Fighting Championships. I forget the name. It was a Japanese fighter, much smaller, probably weighed about $150, 150 pounds. And Yarborough tried to squash him, tried to use that weight size advantage. Little dude literally ran circles around him, like sprinted, jogged circles around him. Eventually tried to shoot in for a takedown. I think the fight was about 15 minutes long, a lot of jogging. Well, the big dude was trying to keep up. Now, when you're like 600, 700, 800 pounds, that is a chore just moving around. Okay? Anyway, little dude shot in for a takedown. Yarborough sprawls on him, squishes him a little bit. Little dude manages to slip out from underneath and hook up a leg lock and finish the fight. So we see this massive difference between large, massive people who are built for short sprints, short intervals of movement. If you watch sumo matches, they're very short. Most of them are over in like 10 seconds. Okay, sumo are built for quick, rapid explosion. All right, their whole workout regimen, their bodies, their girth, it is built to crash and explode and finish quickly. Okay, these guys don't train for endurance. Okay, they definitely don't train for a 25-minute fight. I mean, they train for a 10-second fight. Now, I like the sport of sumo. I think it's fascinating. I think Sumo Tori, the sumo wrestlers, are fascinating people. And there's a lot of great technique and principles that you certainly can bring over to the sport of mixed martial arts. I mean, look at Lyoto Machida, for example. He's best known as a karate practitioner, the karate guy who started using, that fancy footwork and his karate stance in mixed martial arts. But what a lot of people don't know is that he also trained in sumo. He's a sumo tori. And now we don't see a whole lot of that, except for one fight where we totally did, when he fought Rashad Evans. Look that up if you can find it. Lyoto Machida versus Rashad Evans. And there's a moment where Rashad Evans tries to clinch and push Lyoto up against the cage, and you can see those sumo reflexes kick in, and he starts using the palm pushes. It's like in sumo, you're not really allowed to strike, but you can push like push strike with the palm in order to manipulate and move your opponent around the ring. And that's exactly what Lyoto Machida did. He met that force with additional force plus leverage with these palm pushes, and was able to reverse position and ended up winning the fight. And while it was just a very short interval of sumo technique, if you will, it was a fantastic application thereof. So if you're going to see a successful sumo in mixed martial arts, that sumo must also be a mixed martial artist. Now, I said before, MMA has weight classes. Now, if there were no weight classes and you were allowed to have 800-pound guys against 100-pound guys, yeah, we wouldn't always see the little guy win, right? But you know, there's a point of diminishing returns as far as weight goes, right? You're carrying around 800 extra pounds of girth around you, unless you are an unrealistically huge giant with normal proportions, which I don't think anybody on this planet is. That will not be an advantage in a long fight. The only advantage of that is being able to sit on the guy, where you don't have to work. But MMA is a sport of constant work, constant motion, constant athleticism. So you got to be a very good athlete. So what else? I mean, we saw a couple of other sumo. What's his name? Akebono. He fought Royce Gracie back in the day, and that was another open weight fight in Pride, I believe. And there was in the early, I think UFC 1. What was his name? Tuli, something like that. This Polynesian sumo wrestler got kicked straight in the mouth by what's his face? That Saboteur Gerard. I don't remember. Tall, lanky guy, and then boom, punched on the side of the head and lost some teeth. And yeah, so traditionally, out of the 3 sumo examples I've given, as far as pure sumo goes, they haven't done very well in MMA, even with the weight advantage, even before they instituted weight classes. So now there's, again, like I said, a lot of cool stuff in sumo, and there's a lot of crossover between sumo and judo and other martial arts. Like, you'll see a lot of the same techniques that we use in judo and Greco-Roman wrestling in sumo. Now, not all the time, because a lot of the times it's a pushing contest, but I would say at the high technical level, when the fighters are evenly matched in size and strength, that's when we see some of those really cool throws and trips and sweeps and things like that. Okay, and that obviously works very well in the sport of mixed martial arts when the fighters know what they're doing. So, great question. I appreciate the questions. Keep them coming. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.